Darshni. Hi, everyone. My name is Sheehan, and we have an exciting agenda for you today. First, we're going to explore what adopting AI in your requirements management process means for your business in 2024 and beyond. Big topic. Following that, I'm going to be turning it over to our founder and chief technologist, Asif, who's going to show you Copilot for DevOps Plus, its new capabilities we're coming out with in the next couple of weeks. We're very excited about it, as you can tell in my voice. And then lastly, we're going to open up the floor for questions that you can place in the Q&A window, as Darshni had just mentioned, throughout the discussion. So that way, at the end, if you have questions, as you think about it, drop it in that window, and we'll get to it at the end of the session today. I hope you enjoy. First up, over the last several years, we've seen AI explode onto the scene and appearing to be a major disruptor. There's been a rapid evolution of generative AI tools, especially LLMs, with unprecedented adoption since 2019, with OpenAI's GPT models leading the way. There's been exponential growth. The number of LLMs has skyrocketed from a handful to hundreds in just a few years, with applications spanning every industry. There's been AI democratization. Accessibility to AI models has dramatically increased, with platforms like Azure OpenAI Service making advanced AI tools available to businesses of all sizes. Acceleration of knowledge creation. The pace at which new information is generated, processed, and utilized has accelerated, contributing to an intelligence explosion. And that's what here at Modern Requirements, we look at it that way, is that there's so much available to us at our fingertips. How do you harness it? I want to leave you with that question, and we hope to answer that today. Today, businesses rely on their people, their experience, their knowledge, and their ability to adapt and grow. However, there are some challenges that we face. The dynamic business environment, as it evolves and changes, we are seeing it happening in all sectors where industries are evolving faster than ever before, with new technology, new regulations, and most importantly, customer expectations constantly shifting. Employee turnover, it does have an impact. High turnover rates challenge companies to maintain a consistent level of knowledge and expertise. Knowledge decay. What was relevant a year ago might be outdated today. Keeping knowledge current is critical for that competitive advantage. And then lastly, the need for continuous learning. The continuous influx of new information, requirements for business, and also requires business to ensure their teams stay up to date on latest regulations and safety standards, and need to be equipped with what's the newest tools. How do we get the most of the intelligence explosion, harness our people's strengths, and still satisfy our evolving knowledge needs? Well, we want to help you bridge that gap. And we feel that we have done that ourselves by using Copilot for DevOps. And so here's how it works. Copilot for DevOps Plus integrates the vast global knowledge base into your organization, helping teams access, utilize relevant information effectively. It seamlessly plugs into Azure DevOps as an extension. This provides a familiar and intuitive platform for your teams to leverage AI-driven insights. It transforms data into intelligence by curating global knowledge to close knowledge gaps your teams may have, but also helps them focus on their unique value and understanding of your specific business. Lastly, it's accessible and user-friendly. It's designed for ease of use. Copilot for DevOps empowers all team members, regardless of technical expertise, to leverage the vast global knowledge, but then apply their own unique experience and understanding of what your business objectives are. Those two things coming together is what we believe we can help your organization do by using Copilot for DevOps Plus. So let's talk about the impact. By implementing and leveraging Copilot for DevOps Plus, you can expect shorter time to market on your projects. Your teams can be more focused on the value they bring and leverage the global knowledge base to support them. Their accuracy and quality can be improved upfront, which ultimately will reduce development rework. And finally, you put all those things together, what you're going to find is that you're going to have a more competitive product. And by having a more competitive product, you're going to have happier customers, whether it be your existing customers or your prospective customer looking for what's the best in the industry. I want to take a pause here for a moment. Improving how your teams work internally can and will have a direct impact to your customers' outcomes. We here at Modern Requirements believe in that vision, and that's the reason what keeps us up at night in terms of building the best AI implementation that is the most useful for our client organizations. So let me give you a little context of who we are and kind of where we are from. If you are new to Modern Requirements, we've been in business for over nearly 20 years. Actually, we've been working for over 20 years in the requirements management space, but we've been a Microsoft partner for over 10. Our suite of requirement management tooling was purpose-built for TFS originally, but now has evolved to being the best requirements management tool globally and is an extension into Azure DevOps. You may have noticed the badges on the previous slides. They highlight that we have been top ranked by Infotech software reviews on both features and functionality, but also in client experience in the last 4 years. All right, so we're going to look at a live demonstration shortly about Copilot4DevOps Plus, but I want to quickly highlight a few exciting new capabilities without any spoilers. Number one, if you've had exposure to Copilot in the past, or first and second iterations of it, you would have loved our Elicit function. And in fact, with our newest version that's going to be coming out, we've enhanced that function. So you're going to see that today. Secondly, I want to quickly highlight impact assessment and our QA assistant. Both of these are going to enable your team to harness that global knowledge and help you manage change more effectively. And then secondly, to ensure that your teams are asking the right questions when they're managing through their work, but also getting some high-level answers as to how can they approach their challenges. And then lastly, we're going to touch a little bit upon a capability that is becoming available through Copilot4DevOps Plus, which is a no-code prototyping tool. So I don't want to provide any spoilers, so I'm going to be letting Asif show you that. But just before I turn it over to Asif, I want to share a couple of use cases of our clients who are loving the use of Copilot4DevOps. Joan and Andre were a couple of our early adopters, and they provided valuable feedback that has improved our tool. And we continue to get a lot of excitement when folks see Copilot4DevOps, but also provide great feedback, which is helping with us on really solving business challenges. Not only do our clients love us, in fact, Microsoft loves our tooling as well. On the left, you have Nicole Desne, a Chief Partner Officer, and this image was taken from Inspire in 2023, where we were highlighted as an AI transformation partner. On the right-hand side, you have Kevin Scott, the Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft, and this image was taken from May this year at Build, where Kevin highlighted the AI transformation partners of this year. Some of the world's leading brands are trusting in Modern Requirements and have for many years. And I wanted to quickly highlight that some of these organizations and many others use our tools and trust in our team. In terms of licensing, there's a couple of different ways to license Modern Requirements and Copilot4DevOps, and I want to take a moment to share. So on the left-hand side here, we have Modern Requirements. Within Modern Requirements, if you already have it and have an Enterprise or an Enterprise Plus level of license, you will automatically have Copilot4DevOps standard. If you're not using it today, I highly encourage you to give it a shot. You'll be surprised on what it's capable of doing. Copilot4DevOps Plus, with the advanced capabilities, can be stacked on top of your Modern Requirements for DevOps licensing. And so some of the advanced capabilities you see today can be implemented in your existing Modern Requirements license. So if you're one of those folks who are here, you definitely can go and upgrade to having Copilot4DevOps Plus. And lastly, within your organization, maybe not every single person is going to need the modern requirements suite of tools, but they love the capabilities of Copilot4DevOps Plus. Well, it is now available as a standalone solution and can be purchased and put into your Azure DevOps instance. All of our solutions are an extension into Azure DevOps, and thus why we partner with Microsoft so closely. And that's another reason why our clients from all industries trust in our solution. So that being said, I'm going to be turning it over to Asif in just a moment for the detailed demonstration. It is my pleasure and my excitement to introduce you to our founder and chief technologist and visionary of modern requirements, Copilot4DevOps Plus, and Coldest One. And so I'll turn it over to you, Asif. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Shan. All right. I am sharing my screen, and I'm going to show you version 3 of Copilot4DevOps. Version 3, we are going to be releasing this over the next couple of weeks. So by mid-September, it should be out. We're in the final round of testing and fine-tuning a few things, but it's nearly there. Now, this particular version of Copilot is the most advanced version by far that we have created. So this is a major leap forward, and you will see why. So let's say, so I have an epic, and I want to take this epic, which is I want to improve customer experience for my project management system. Okay, and let's say that's my epic, and I want to come up with features, and so I'm going to use Elicit to ask it to recommend features and then get me the title and descriptions for it. So I go, it's going to use GPT-4 Mini for this, and it comes up with some recommendations on how to improve customer experience. Okay. If you need more, click on more. See, previously you had to choose a proper drop down how many you wanted, but now you can keep asking for more and more and more, and eventually select the ones that are applicable for what you want to get done. Okay. Now, in this particular features, I'd actually given it a message that identify features that are needed by blind users. So if I'm building a system that needs to support people with no sight or poor sight, then custom instructions can be used to fine-tune the results. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to generate again. And this time, it will not take that into account. And so now it doesn't have any specific instruction, and now it's going to give me a different result set. So you can fine-tune the recommendations that the system provides. Okay, so let's say I do want I want to have a streamlined user onboarding process. I need a feedback mechanism. I need various reporting, and so on and so forth. Or you can just select them all if you like. Okay, but I'll just select these 3 for now. I'll go ahead and publish this. And this will create the work items and link it to the epic. Okay. So now, if I go to this work item, so there's a couple of things we did compared to the previously. Now you can click on any of the work items and drill down into it and see the details. So you don't have to get out to do this. You can also click on the work items that we just published to look at the details. In fact, you can even update these, and that will be reflected back here. However, if you click the hyperlink, then it'll drill down. It'll take you to the next level. So I can say now for this feature, what I want to do is I want to define user stories. And it'll go and generate your user stories for that feature. So previously, you remember you had to get out, select something else, and come back in. So it's just saved you a bunch of clicks and become much more efficient. And again, you can do more, and then you can continue to select the ones that you want, and it'll go get, in this case, I'm asking it for the description, acceptance criteria, pseudocode, and test script steps. Okay. So it's generated all of those things. I can go ahead and create these as work items. And again, when the work items are created, you would see the IDs there, titles are hyperlinked, and then I can again drill down into the user story and generate my test cases. So now it's going to generate my test cases with all the test steps. You can ask for more, you can select all. It'll go get all the test steps for each of these test cases. And there you are. Okay. So you can imagine, by giving the right context, the amount of productivity you get is through the roof, right? And then you can fine tune it later on, right? So it gives you a really good starting point. Plus, you don't miss things, because this can detect things that would take us very long to do manually. And so let's go in and create these as test case work items. And so these are my test cases now published. Let's go back to the feature. And now let's select another user story and have it generate test cases for that, and so on and so forth. So this breadcrumb is really useful to go back and forth and flush out your information. The other thing you can do is I could go to the feature and say, you know what, I don't want test cases here. What I want for the feature is I want integration test case, because this feature has many user stories. And in that user story, I want to consider the content of all the user stories underneath that feature, and to come up with integration test cases. And so this is a new thing we've just introduced for integration test cases. Then it'll come up with integration test cases, and you can publish those. The one thing that you can do is, when you go to, let's go here, and if I drill down into this, okay, and I go, you know what I need? I need user stories here. Okay, so I want user stories. If there are already user stories defined for this feature, then those user stories would not be repeated again. So in V2, it could repeat things. In V3, it is much more aware, and it does not repeat anything you have. So when you want to identify what are the gaps, this is how you would do it. Okay, you just run it, and it'll tell you new stuff that you're missing. Okay. Now, whenever you are asking it to recommend things, as before, you can give it instructions. Okay, you can give it instruction, in this case, for what titles you want and what details you want. You can give it specific instructions, but you can also tell it to be more creative or be more precise. You want short responses or long responses. Which services you want to use, the service is configurable by organization, whether you want to use only Azure OpenAI services, or do you want to use OpenAI service directly? Or what you can also do with V3 is you can define your own, you can choose to use your own LLM. Okay, so many of our clients have come to us and said, we have configured our own LLM with Microsoft, and we would like to use our own LLM because they have certain SLAs from Microsoft and or whatever else they've configured, but they want to use their own LLMs. So V3 will give you your ability to define and use your own LLMs, okay, which you would be able to select from here. And in your LLM, you can also choose which model you want to use within the LLM, whether it's provided by model requirements or it's provided by yourselves. You'll be able to choose which model you want to use. My recommendation is use GPT-4o Mini, because Mini is more efficient in terms of token usage, as well as it's almost as good as 4o in my opinion, and in some cases even better, surprisingly. Okay. So that's Elicit. That's how elicitation works. By the way, you can create any work item type you choose from here, whether you want to create risk mitigations, you want to create tasks for your projects, you can do all of these things from within Elicit. All right, so that's elicitation. The next thing we'll take a look at is analyze. So when we analyze, what I want to do here is I can choose the model, the method of analysis. So previously there was only the 6C method, which is a very good model. But what if you want to use the invest model or the Moscow model or the SWOT model or Pablo? You can choose the model you want, you can click on generate, and it will generate your 6C quality analysis. Basically is looking, is it clear, is it concise, is it complete, consistent, correct, or concrete? And in the event that it gives you a low score, you should read some suggestions as to what you want to do. It'll tell you why it rated what it did. So in concrete, the fact that we're using phrases like implementing solutions are not specific enough. So we need to come up with language that's that defines specific actions and that are measurable, is what we want to do. Okay. In completeness, we want to provide metrics. So it's giving us suggestions of how to make it better. And this particular feature got 67%. And here's sort of the summary of the recommendation. Okay. Now over here, you can copy this into memory and then paste it somewhere and share it with other people as you need to. So that's, and of course we could take a look at, if you wanted to do an invest model, then it'll come up with different parameters. So it's looking at, is the requirement independent? Is it negotiable? Is it valuable? Is it estimatable? Is it small? So again, it's using a different model to do this analysis. And we implemented this because our clients came to us and they said that they use different models. And although it's got a similar score in this model as well, but it is looking at things in a different way, right? So this is going to be really helpful, especially with V3 now that you have the ability to change the model. Okay. Oh, by the way, so if you go in here, you will see there's a learn more link there. If you click on this, it'll open up a panel with a video that shows you how to use Elicit. Okay. So every one of these have learn more, and you can drill down and click on it and see examples or step-by-step of how to use it. Although the system is pretty simple, but sometimes it's good to have something to look at, a couple of minutes and say, aha, I get it. Which leads me to my new favorite function, impact assessment. So in impact assessment, you know what I'm going to do for impact assessment? I'm going to use a different example. So I've got a requirement written for a CRM. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do impact assessment, where I'm going to start the impact assessment with the work item that was already selected, which was an epic. And I'm going to tell it what change I want to do. Okay, that the new notification, the user notification should be sent within 3 seconds. I think previously it was 5 seconds or something. And so you define what you want to change, you identify one or multiple starting points for the analysis, and you tell it to analyze. So it'll go and come back and tell you how likely is how big is the impact. So for this epic, it's a 4 out of 5 impact. It's giving you the analysis over here and what you might want to do. And then you can drill down into it. And then it'll come to the next level. Okay. So this way, you can take a large body of knowledge and have it go through it and come up with what are the areas that are going to be impacted. Another example of this could be I could select multiple work items and then invoke this thing, do impact assessment on all of these work items. I'll give it the same message and have it do the analysis at the bottom level. So I don't go top down from feature epics, features user story. What it did was it identified, in this case, that there is one work item that is a 5 out of 5 impact because it was within 5 seconds before, now it's 3 seconds. It identified exactly the area that would be impacted, right? Now, most people will perform impact analysis one way or the other, okay? And in this case, what I need to do is I need to update the implementation of this user story, and I will need to rerun or update the test case so that now I'm testing for the 3-second delay only or less. So impact assessment is a huge tool. Its implication is massive because otherwise it's too, and by the way, this is not doing text search. It's actually doing semantic analysis on what do things mean and then determines what needs to be done. All right, so let's go back here. So what else do we want to look at? Oh yeah, let's take a look at Q&A assistant. Okay, so let's say I'm doing requirements, and what I want to look at is my application security ISO 9001 compliant? Or what are the ideas of ISO 9001 that I should be creating requirements for my application security? So I just give it a title there, a sentence, a phrase, whatever. It'll come up with a series of questions that you should ask yourself. Okay. And so, for example, I need to patch my system. Okay. And when you do that, it will come up with a explanation of the question, a detailed answer, and a summary of the answer. Okay. And then you can go and create your work item. And when you create your work item, so let's say I'm going to create a user story now based on this, it will give me this work item here, where now we want to ensure that the security we're doing timely patch deployment, blah, blah, blah. Here's my description of it. Oh, by the way, here is the question I was answering that helped me create this requirement. Provides context to you. So this is another type of elicitation that helps you think through the problem and then helps you drive the answer. Oh, dynamic prompt. So dynamic prompt is obviously an amazingly powerful tool. So let's take a look at, I've created an example here. And what this example does this example in dynamic prompt. By the way, dynamic prompt is very open-ended, powerful tool. So what can we do here? So in dynamic prompt, what I'm going to do is I'm saying that that in my CRM system, I support the following capabilities as listed in query 1. Query 1, I've given it a query there. And then I'm telling it that my client wants a system with these requirements, which I've listed below. I want it to perform a gap analysis for me between my system capability and what the client wants. Okay, so that's the ask, and then I go generate, and this guy will go perform the gap analysis and show us what were the client requirements, do we support it, and is anything missing? So it's doing a full analysis. We actually implemented this because we were working with a client of ours that had large system with hundreds of capabilities. And when people came to them with RFP, they said, here's what we need. And they have a big list of things they do, and they have to do a gap analysis. So first they want to do a high-level analysis. When they win it, they want to do a detailed analysis. Both of those took a lot of time to do. But now we can be doing those things extremely efficiently. So that's the function of dynamic prompt. You give it content from your work items, you prompt something you want it to do, and so on. Okay. Now, another example of dynamic prompt would be multi-select. So when I multi-selected work items in the back end, you'll see the context change to selected work item as opposed to query. So this is now looking at multiple selected work items. I'm going to give it a prompt. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm giving it a series of user stories, and I'm telling him to summarize the scope of this work, which is the work items and it's this information. And I said, give me up to 3 items that are the hardest to implement. And so now it's taking all of the user story and so on. It's giving me a short summary of it. And here are the 3 things it thinks are the hardest to implement. Or what if you went here, you said, not only do I want you to do this, but I want you to give me the result in German. Of course, you could have also done that from choosing, okay, that's not here. But let's go here and say generate. And so it'll actually give you a summary in German and the top 3 things that are the hardest to implement in German, right? How wonderful is this? Imagine the things you can do with dynamic prompt. Okay. The other thing, which I'll continue with multi-select, is the ability to generate test cases. Okay. So you could say, given all of these user stories, generate test scripts, not test cases, test scripts in one of many frameworks. So if you're using Selenium, you can say, give me my test scripts for these user stories. Then it'll go and actually generate your test scripts for Selenium based on the details you've provided. Now, what I should do is here, I should tell it to include the acceptance criteria in there as well. And it'll bring all of that together. So it'll take a moment to finish. And now you have a cumulative result of all those user stories within a Selenium framework, right? Similarly, you can say, you know what, I actually want to get pseudocode, but I want pseudocode in TypeScript. Okay. But if you leave it pseudocode here, it'll just give you your logic in plain English. But let's do TypeScript, and then it'll go and give you your TypeScript code to implement all of these user stories. So previously in V2, you could only do one work item at a time. Now you can select a whole bunch and have it create your code based on whichever language you choose, and voila. Okay. So that's your pseudocode for these requirements. All right. The other thing that I want to show you is let's go back here and let's go into this. And what we'll do, so we looked at a bunch of things. You can also create Gherkin. Okay. So for example, you could say, for this epic, tell me what are the Gherkins that might be applicable. Of course, Gherkin is a way of writing your requirements. So it basically comes up with given, when, then statements. And a lot of people that do test-driven development will write in Gherkin because that can be codified much more easily. And you can do this at whichever level. The input can be a user story, a requirement, even a test case, and I'll create this for you. But you can also convert this to a use case, and it'll create the use case for you, given this high-level epic. So here's your precondition, post-conditions. Here are my actors I need. Here's the scenario. Here's my alternate, my exceptions. Right. So really, the idea of using Copilot is to make you much more efficient so that you can do the job that you were meant to do, which is to understand your business needs. Not to be a glorified typist, but to understand the business needs, to collaborate with your stakeholders and come up with solutions that really provides value to the end users of the systems that you're developing, right? So it elevates the role of a business analyst, a product owner, a quality engineer, because Copilot can take on and help you with a lot of the stuff which can be automated, but it does not know what you know about your organization. Okay. And that brings me to creating a no-code prototype. Now imagine you're building an application, okay, and your boss comes and says, "Hey, I want I want a project management system." Okay, so you go and you say, "Okay, you know what? We need a project management system. Let's choose that. We can describe it. And what it's going to do is going to create a prototype for us without us writing a piece of code." And then I go, fine, let's take a look at this. And it'll come up with, what does a project management system need? It needs projects, tasks, teams, milestones, whatever. You can say, give me more, and you will see more. And for any one of these, you can see what are the characteristics of these, and you can fine tune them as needed. And like so, and when you're done with this, you basically go next and you'll create the app. But what if your boss said, "Hey, look, I need an event management system because we are doing a corporate event and I want that to be managed. And no, I don't want to spend the next 6 weeks trying to figure out, can I buy something out there? Can we get something going quickly?" So you might create a spreadsheet and use that, or you might start writing requirements for somebody to build it or select one for you, or you can come to this function within Copilot to create a functioning prototype very quickly. So let's do an event management then. So go to event management. It will come up with a series of things. So you need events, you need venues, you need attendees, you have tickets, you have sessions. Of course, we have speakers. We'll also have sponsors and so on and so forth, right? So we need all of these. And then you might go, fine, I like these, I fine tune it. Next, at this point, Copilot will come up with the relationships. An event has one venue, but maybe it does, or maybe an event may have many venues, okay? And that an event can have many sessions, sessions can have many speakers, maybe not, it's just one speaker, okay? So you do this configuration. That's it. Once you have defined this, you click on Create App, at which point you wait for 2 minutes or maybe less. It'll create the application for you, a beautiful looking application. You don't have to drag and drop or do stuff there. It'll give you your version 1 of the application that looks like this. Now, in this case, I've added some data so that I can show you that it has a dashboard in it. It's got a beautiful dashboard with calendar, with whatever else you need. The application will have reporting automatically created in it, so you can create your reports. You can edit your reports, you can configure them as you like, and you can aggregate things, all kinds of stuff. You'll have the ability to manage your events. So you've got multiple events here. So if you're going to the vintage car event, here's sort of the summary of it. If I click on it, it'll drill down into it. We can look at the venues. It's at the state field. And we can look at the guests we have, what are the tasks outstanding on this event management area. There's a history of who did what when. You can have discussion here. You can have attachments in it, and so on and so forth. Okay. So now what you have is the ability to visualize an application. And of course, this is just version 1 of the application. You might want to fine tune it, at which point you will go enable editing. And now you will see these pencils show up. So if I go to event here, you'll see these pencils are here. If I go to new event, there's a pencil there. I could click on the pencil and I can start to do editing of what do I want. I can also now drag and drop and reorganize things. So you didn't have to do that up front. The AI automation within Codeless1, Codeless1 is a sister product to Modern Requirements, but you can get a free version of it so you can do your prototyping and start experimenting with it. Okay. The whole point is this is a fully functional application. Not only is it beautiful looking, it is very powerful. You can even define rules of how data, from a data security point of view, from a role security point of view, and on and on and on. So the whole point is before you build it or you buy it, use it. Okay. So often people build it and then people use it and they find that it's too late because now changing is very expensive. With Modern Requirements Codeless1, you can iterate through the concept very quickly, and in 5 or 6 iterations, maybe over a week, you will have a solution that's very close to the end game, at which point you will decide, do I deploy this application because it does everything I want and this has the right security and scalability, or you'll say, no, you know what, let's build it because we want to build it in a certain way with certain capabilities that we need and so on and so forth. And then you'll do that. But this whole idea about having the ability to create a prototype as an elicitation tool in requirements or a validation tool is an extremely valuable thing. Okay. So that, folks, is how Codeless1 works. But the capabilities of Copilot 3.0 have not come to an end. We are getting a lot of excellent feedback from our stakeholders, and in probably before October is over, we'll probably have version 4 out, and before year end is out, we'll have version 5 out. So we have a huge development team on this work, working with a lot of our clients in making Azure DevOps an amazing place to do your requirements with modern requirements and Copilot for DevOps. So with that, I'm going to pause, hand it over to Shihan, and we'll do some stuff and come back to do Q&A.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. So on that note, I think we're ready for some questions, right, Asif?
Yep, for sure.
All right, let's fire away. The first one is, tell me about the security of using Copilot.
So a few things. One is Copilot is under the security wall of Azure DevOps. So having access to that, you have to go through the Azure DevOps security. That's number one. Number two, the data is used data is transmitted to the LLM at OpenAI or Azure, which is encrypted. And the data is transient as it gets thrown away, unless you choose to create the work item and or copy the content of the result. So unless you want to use it, the data is transient, and the data is never used for training. So your data remains secure and private. And if you need more information, let us know. We have a white paper written on it with references to commitments from Microsoft and OpenAI on that as well. So there's a lot of content available for that. So please let us know if you need that information.
Excellent, thank you. I'm gonna jump right to the next one. I'm not going in any particular order. So this one is, if we move forward with Copilot for DevOps version 4, when Copilot 5 is released, do we need to purchase that then?
No, you don't. So Copilot for DevOps is a subscription model, and so you would get that as part of your subscription. So if you have purchased, say, version 2, which is out currently, then you'll automatically have access to version 3, and 4 and 5 and so on. So it is a subscription model, and you automatically get the upgrades. Unless we release another SKU, another complementary product, which is not the case with version 3. In version 4, we might have additional, one of the things we're bringing in version 4 as a service is bring your own data. So there is an additional license model to support that, but from an end user perspective, there is no licensing required at the individual level in version 3, 4, or 5 that we can see.
Excellent. Next up, is there any limit to the amount of output that can be generated?
Yes. So basically, when you go to here, you will be able to see the token status. So depending on the type of license you have, well, since I'm the founder of the company, I get 25 million tokens. If you have the basic version, which comes with MR, Enterprise Plus, you get 500,000. If you have purchased the Copilot Plus, you get 10 million tokens. 10 million tokens we expect is going to be enough for any user, at least 1-2 standard deviation number of users. And we're also thinking of increasing the token count if we find people are running into that is a bottleneck especially for Copilot Plus, because if you're going to use Copilot for DevOps seriously, you'll want to have a Copilot Plus subscription, which is $20 a month, really. So it'll cost you one coffee a week, but it'll save you 20 hours a week. So yeah, there is limits that exist, but with Copilot Plus, it's unlikely you will hit the limit.
Excellent. Next up, will V3 automatically go out to all current generation users?
So V3 is being launched as a standalone. So if you are using Copilot for DevOps today as a standalone, you'll have automatically V3. If you're using V2 today, embedded in MR, you'll have to install the V3 extension, and then you can use your MR user license to use V3. In the next release of MR, we'll get it embedded within MR and replace V2 with V3. But there will be a short amount of time where V2 and V3 will both appear within the context menu, but you will have access to V3 as an existing MR client. But if you're using Copilot standalone, you'll automatically be upgraded and you'll see the new UI and everything.
Okay, so
and once again, by the way, we will be sending out detailed information to MR clients when it's released in the next couple of weeks as to what they need to do to get V3.
Okay. I have a couple of questions on the same topic, but I'm going to ask them somewhat together here, Asif. So the first one is, does enabling Copilot for DevOps require any extra configuration / setup on MR? Does enabling Copilot for DevOps require any extra configurations / setup on MR?
So there is, under the admin area, there is a flag where you can enable or disable it. So there's two things you want to do as an MR client. One is sync your license, okay? So if you have MR Enterprise and you don't see Copilot, sync your license, that'll make sure that you have Copilot that would become visible, okay? The other thing is you can go to General and enable Copilot for DevOps feature. We do provide organizations the ability to disable Copilot for DevOps, but if it is disabled, you need to get it enabled. So that's all you have to do. And then all of a sudden, you will see that within the context menu, you will see Copilot show up. By the way, the black one, the black icon is for Copilot V3. This is V2. So since some people might need to use both, we did make this update until this gets released embedded within MR natively.
Thank you, Asif. Actually, on the same line as configuration, this next question is more geared towards modern requirements, but I'll ask it, it's how long and how much effort is needed to set up modern requirements to start using it?
So if you're using if you're using Azure DevOps on the cloud, so if you're using ADO on the cloud as opposed to on-prem, all you have to do is let us know your URL. So it'll be something like dev.azure.com/abc, and then we can enable it, and then you'll enable it. So it's a 5-minute thing if you did it back to back. So it's a very simple task to enable it. The same thing with Copilot. In fact, Copilot is even easier because if you want to try out Copilot, you can go to the Visual Studio Marketplace, and then from the marketplace, you can install it, and that's instant.
Okay. We have a few more questions here I want to get through. This next one is, I heard that Copilot for DevOps Plus can be used in an on-prem environment. How can these private LLMs be trained, and can they be useful?
So you can use Copilot on-prem. So on-prem, there's two scenarios. Most people, although it's installed on-prem, will be able to use LLM on Azure or OpenAI. And so you would basically whitelist the IP address for Azure, for example, and then you would end up using Azure LLM. If yours is a dark site where you can't send data outside, then you cannot use Copilot. For dark sites, we are working on something, so you can have a local deployment of something like Llama or something. So that would be coming sometime next year, hopefully early next year. But for now, you would need to open up some port so that a call can be made to Azure to run the queries on LLMs.
Thank you for that. So here's the next question. Is it possible to set the AI up for a specific use case? Example, making that we are developing a SAMD product that can be approved by FDA or notified body. So I think the question is asking, can you tailor the Copilot so that it's specific to a particular industry or product type?
Yep. So there's a few things I would mention. The first thing is that you can, like, for example, if you're doing elicitation and you have a medical device here, say, okay, you can go and give it custom instructions, which would be the context in which it should recommend the subsystems for your product, for example. Okay. So you can use these parameters to further fine-tune its recommendation. That's one. The other is in vNext, in version 4, we are implementing something called, it gives you the ability to recall certain standards and text blocks that belong to a given domain, so that you don't have to remember what you need to provide as context. But when you will come here, you'll have the ability to just pull in one or many text blocks which refer to either standards or external standards like ISO, internal standards you've established like your SOPs, and so on, and that becomes the context for the call. So in V4, we are adding that. Also, alongside in V4 or V5, we're going to be releasing Bring Your Own Data, where Copilot can be trained on your work items, on your documents, on your other artifacts, your wikis, so that Copilot at that point will become a lot more intelligent about your products, because you have proprietary data that Copilot doesn't, because Copilot knows everything there is to know that is in the public domain in the world. So it has the global knowledge that's publicly available. But what if it's private? Well, that training is coming later this year, where you can train it on your content. And now when you tell it to do something for you, do an FMEA or something, it would then have the knowledge of what you've already done in the past, and thus be able to recommend things more appropriately.
Well, I think you answered an additional question we had, Asif, because one of the questions, we'll do this one and one more, and we'll wrap for questions. So the question was, what we do is very proprietary. Is Copilot able to use my data to help make suggestions? So I think you touched upon that. Maybe you want to elaborate a little bit further on that, Asif?
Yeah, so your data is your data. The system is not trained on your data. It's not exposed to anyone else. Your data is just used to provide the response you're looking for based on what function you end up using within Copilot. So one of the key things for AI to be successful has been an enormous amount of thought and expense to make sure that people's data is private and secure, and that it is. Oh, guys, by the way, if this was the last question, I want to mention one of the things we've added in Copilot now is this news and tips. So when we are having webinars or things, you will be able to come here and see, hey, what's new, what's hot, what's happening. When a new release is done, what's going to be the release notes. So this tool tips, these tips or news area is going to be very useful, because previously you had to sort of go look for it. Now this will light up whenever there's new content available for you.
Perfect. And actually, this is the last question that I'm going to do our wrap up here. Kind of controversial, and that's why I want to leave it on this one is, do you anticipate that a tool like this will replace some BA roles? Ooh.
The answer is no. I don't think it will replace BAs or product owners. I think what it will do is that it will make you much more productive and smarter and stand out compared to others who don't use an effective AI tool for their work. I think the difference is going to be in due course, the difference between riding on a horse versus riding on a motorcycle. That's going to be the difference, right? And that's inevitably coming. So there are going to be people that adopt AI, as in they'll move to the automobile side, and there are going to be people that prefer to do it old school. And there's nothing wrong with old school, it's just not as efficient. The quality may not be as good. And innovation might be slower. People might be less happier. But so my recommendation to business analysts, product owners, quality engineers, project managers, and others is to embrace the idea of using AI to make your work better. And in that way, not only will you serve yourselves better in the future, but you'll serve your organizations much better, because you will be happier in the process, and so will they.
It's very well put, Asif. And that's what we're seeing and hearing on the sales side, is that folks, as they implement modern requirements in Copilot for DevOps, they're finding that they're able to do so much more with the teams that we have. And I think that's even our story, right, Asif? Over the course of this past year, where we launched Copilot for DevOps version 1 in November of last year, and we're already launching version 3 with version 4 on the horizon. And we've seen that ourselves, how this advanced technology improved our processes with this team that we had, and we were able to do more with less. So on that note, I want to quickly share my screen, if you don't mind, Darshini, if you can give me control. So as I want to be respectful of everyone's time, let's go here. And I want to first of all say thank you to everyone who joined today for our discussion and taking a look at Copilot for DevOps Plus and Coldest One, and really engage with us on the conversation of how do we effectively harness the capabilities that are now available to us with AI and use it to drive value to our clients. And we believe, and we know with some of our existing clients, that Copilot for DevOps Plus is that bridge to harness that new capability and drive value out of it for our clients and customers. So we hope that you have enjoyed our conversation today. We encourage you, if you have yet to try Copilot for DevOps Plus, you can do it from a couple of different ways. You can do it through the Azure Marketplace, you can do it through the Visual Studio Marketplace, or you can reach out to us directly, and we would be happy to do a demonstration for you and set you up with trial licenses. If you'd like to continue this conversation after this webinar and discussion, please feel free to reach out to me directly at sheehan.fernando@modernrequirements.com, or you can reach out to our Copilot team directly at info@copilot4devops.com. With that being said, thank you for your time today. Thank you, Darshini, for putting this together, and Asif, thank you for walking us through the details of Modern Requirements is Copilot for DevOps. Till next time, folks, we look forward to continuing this conversation after today. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.